Good day, everyone. It's our English class today. And today we'll be talking about a very, very interesting and technical topic, which has drawn so many questions and theories to itself in the English language. The noun as a concept or a part of speech in the English language, it's one important aspect, or let me say a part that has so many things attached to it. And as a matter of fact, hardly can you express a sentence in the English language without dealing much with the noun. Though obligatorily you have to use a verb, but a verb may not have an impact on itself until it is attached to a noun, either concretely or abstractly. So today we'll be talking about noun clauses or noun clause as it were. Now, in the English language, the clause is an important aspect that without it, we may not be able to express something of sense into understanding. Now, there's something we call the grammatical rank scale in the English language, that is how things are built together until we attain a syntactic level of understanding. So basically, in the English language, there is a way things are brought together so that we can achieve what we'll call an understandable expression in the English language. So it comes from bringing morphemes together. Now, bringing morphemes together, we are able to form a word. That is the next phase. Now, from words, we are able to bring words together without a finite verb to form phrases. Now, by the time we bring phrases together and we add a finite verb into it, we have a clause. Now, stopping there, we have said that we add a finite verb to phrase to form a clause. Now, calling it a clause, it means that there is an understandable meaning to it. So it may not be wholly taken, or it may not be a full expression of the sense we want to make, but we can still have a partial sense into it. However, as much as we can have a partial sense, there are some clauses that can give us a complete sense. So when we're talking about clauses, majorly we may say we have a main clause or a subordinate clause, that is by type, or we'll say we have a, an independent clause, that is a clause that explains itself. It has all the senses in it. And we have a dependent clause. Now, a dependent clause relies on an independent clause to actualize its meaning. So if you make a statement or you make an expression and you realize that that expression is still relying on another expression to actualize its meaning, it means the expression made is a dependent statement. But if you realize that you have made a statement and you see that the statement is understandable and it can be taken that way, it means you have given an independent statement, or what we can call a clause in the English language. So without wasting our time, I want to look at a noun clause today. Now, a noun clause, what it means, how is it used in a sentence, how do you identify them in a sentence? Those are the major things we want to look at concerning the noun clause today. Now, what's a noun clause? A noun clause is a dependent clause that takes the place of any noun in a sentence. A noun clause is a dependent clause that takes the place of any noun in a sentence. Now, in any sentence or any expression you have made and you realize that you are able to use a noun in it grammatically, it means a noun clause can feature or can be used in it, replacing the noun you have there earlier. So it means you can write a sentence, you have a noun in that sentence, you can remove that noun and you replace it with a noun clause. So that is what a noun clause is. So a noun clause is a dependent clause, that is a clause that depends on another part of the sentence to have a meaning expected of it. So just as I said earlier, you can have an independent clause and you can have a dependent clause. So a noun clause is a dependent clause. So when you see them in sentences, you realize that when you talk about them or when you express them, they wait that something is added to them for you to make a perfect sense or to make an understandable expression. So without wasting our time, we'll move on to the functions of noun clauses. Functions of noun clauses. Now, because we have said in a definition of noun clause that it is a dependent clause that can be used to replace a noun in a sentence. So all the functions that a noun can carry out in a sentence or an expression, a noun clause can do so too. So the first function we want to look at is a noun clause as a subject of a sentence. Now, basically in the English language, a subject is the doer of an action in a sentence. So if a subject is the doer of an action in a sentence, a noun representing man, animals, place, or things that can carry out an action, that is a verb, it means we can use such to represent an actor in a sentence. So a noun clause can be an actor of an action in a sentence. So as much as you can use a noun as an actor in a sentence, you can use a noun clause as an actor in a sentence. So a noun clause can be used as a subject of a sentence or a subject of a verb used in a sentence. If you look at the example we are given, why my pet turtle stares at me all day is beyond me. Now, if we read the first part of it before the verb is, you realize that if you just look at someone and you say, why my pet turtle stares at me the all day, and you realize, and you keep your mouth shut, you realize the person will ask you, what next? No, so that is to tell you that the definition of a noun clause as a dependent clause, a clause that needs something, that needs an independent clause on something to explain, or it relies on another part of the expression to actualize its meaning, is a noun clause. So here, if you read the first part of that sentence, why my pet turtle stares at me all day, and you keep quiet, it is not a whole statement. It is not understandable because the listener will want you to complete it to make a sense in it. So then, okay, fine. Why my pet turtle stares at me all day is beyond me. So the first part of it there is a dependent clause, and that is a noun clause. Now, a noun clause can function as a subject in a sentence because it will come as the actor. It will come before the verb, the predicator in your sentence. If you have your actor coming after your predicator, that is not an English sentence. That is not an English sentence. But if you have your actor coming before your action, that is an English sentence. So you must take it that when you want to identify your noun clause as a subject of the sentence, it must come before the predicator in your sentence. Your predicator is the verb, the major action taken in that sentence, the major action carried out in that sentence, that is your predicator. So moving forward, we can also have a noun clause as a direct object in a sentence. Now, on this issue, when we're talking about objects of a verb in a sentence, we have two of them. We can have a direct object and we can have an indirect object. So a noun clause functioning as a direct object can function after your verb. A verb that is coming directly after your verb is, an object coming directly after your verb is a direct object. So when my dog goes to doggy daycare, I do not know what he does. Now, the major statement, the main clause there is, I do not know what he does. And we have two dependent or subordinate clauses surrounding that clause. So we have two subordinate clauses and a main clause in this sentence. We have, when my dog goes to doggy daycare, that is a subordinate clause. I do not know what he does, that is a main clause. And then we have, but he always has the best time, that is another subordinate clause. So we are majorly concerning ourselves with the part of the main clause where we can have a noun clause after the verb. So the predicator in this sentence, there is no. So what is coming after that verb no is what it does. So that is our direct object for the sentence. So what it does there is a noun clause, and it is acting as a direct object in the sentence. The next one is a noun clause functioning as an indirect object. A noun clause functioning as an indirect object. Now, how do you identify an indirect object? An indirect object will be something that is being referred through the direct object. Something that is being referred through the direct object. If, for instance, I say, I gave Ade a pen. I gave Ade a pen. Now, there are two objects there. But among these two objects, one was first attended to before the other. The first object identified there is a pen before Ade became an object. So in the sentence I've just made, I gave Ade a pen. A pen will be my direct object, and Ade becomes my indirect object. Though the action is taken through the pen towards Ade. I get in it. So the pen there is a direct object, and Ade is my indirect object. So for this sentence now, we are seeing that a noun clause can also function as an indirect object in a sentence. So the example that we have, she chooses to photograph whomever was willing to pose for her. So our noun clause functioning as an indirect object in this sentence is whomever was willing to pose for her. Now, remember, we are looking at a clause, not a phrase. We are looking at a clause, not a phrase. And I told you that for us to form a clause, we need a phrase and a finite verb added to it. Now, if you look at the expression we have, she is a phrase. Choose happens to be our predicator. To photograph is a phrase. But when we have whomever was willing to pose for her is a subordinate or a dependent clause. So that is our indirect object functioning as, that's our noun clause functioning as an indirect object in a sentence. Moving from there, a noun can also function as an object of a preposition. And just as we have said earlier, that in any position where you have a noun functioning, a noun clause can function in there too. In any position where you have a noun functioning, you can have a noun clause functioning in there too. So now, the expression that we have here, I like to keep a schedule of when I have upcoming appointments. I like to keep a schedule of when I have upcoming appointments. Now, our noun clause there is when I have upcoming appointment, because it is coming after the preposition of. It is coming after the preposition of. I like to keep a schedule. A schedule there is a direct object, a phrase, but we have a prepositional clause. That is if we start from of. But however, in that prepositional clause, we have a noun clause acting as the object of the preposition. Now, the preposition used there is of, and we have a whole noun clause acting as the object of a preposition. Now, any noun coming after a preposition in an expression is the object of that preposition. But it is in the same vein that this particular noun clause was used. Another one very quickly is that you can also use a noun as the complement of a subject. A complement of a subject. Now, a complement will tell us more or give us an insight or give us a perfective action taken by a noun in a sentence or an expression. Now, if you look at the expression, actors can become whomever they want to be on the stage. Actors can become whoever they want to be on the stage. Now, if you look at the statement, actors can become, anything that comes after, especially the verb to be as used in a sentence, will usually be a complement. Now, if you ask yourself, who are those that should become whomever they want on the stage? The answer will be what? The actors. Now, the actors, as used in this sentence, they are the subject of the verb can become. So, but because whomever they want to be on the stage is now still reflecting to them, actors become whomever they want to be on the stage. who are those that should become, who are those that can become whomever they want to be on stage will reflect back to the world, to the actors. So that's why we're saying that that part after become is telling us or giving us more information, redirecting us to the actors, the subject. That is why we call it a subject complement. Now, lastly, on this for this class, I want to give you 3 quick tips of how you can identify a noun clause in expressions. Now, sometimes you may find yourself in an examination hall and you are asked a question, identify the noun clause, or something was underlined and they ask you to look for the grammatical name or the grammatical function. Now, if it is a noun clause, how do you identify them in sentences and expressions? Because you need to know when you make expressions or when you say something, you need to know what you have said and what parts of the grammatical aspect you have used to make that expression come alive. So the first tip is noun clauses can replace any noun in a sentence, including subject, object, and complement. So that's just as we have said in the definition. Now, if you look at the example we are given, no one knows why she's afraid of lizards. Now, a noun clause, there is why she is afraid of lizards. That's our noun clause because it is coming after a verb. So here it will be functioning as the object of a verb. Object of a verb in the sentence employed. The second tip is noun clauses are not modifiers. They are placeholders. That is, noun clauses are not used to modify another part of speech. They have a place, they have a specific place, they have a specific function that they carry out in a sentence. So you don't use noun clauses to modify, rather you place them somewhere that they work as something and they get that thing done. So a noun clause functions as a subject in a sentence. A noun clause functions as the object in a sentence. A noun clause functions as the complement to the subject. Now, a noun clause functioning as a complement to a subject, it is not modifying the subject. It's only qualifying it, telling us more about what the subject is or what the subject can do. So it gives more information, not trying to tell us how that thing goes or how it should be. So that is the understanding of saying that noun clauses are not modifiers, they are placeholders. So unlike adverbs that will tell you how an action was carried out, where an action was carried out, or when or what time an action was carried out. For nouns, they stand in the place of carrying out the action itself. They are placeholders, not modifiers. And the last tip is noun clauses begin with either interrogative pronouns or expletives. So when you see an interrogative pronoun in your expression, watch very well. It might likely or usually be a noun clause. It may likely or usually be a noun clause. So from the example we have, the pug did not know what would make his life any more perfect. So if you see there, the expression that we have there is what would make his life any more perfect. What there is an interrogative pronoun. So with that, we can say that that gives us a link to identify that expression as a noun clause. So to end this class, this is an assignment that I've given. So all you have to do is underline all the noun clauses that we have in these 5 sentences. All the noun clauses that we have in these 5 sentences. Without wasting our time, I will quickly want to bring us back to the definitions. A noun clause, as we said, is a dependent clause that takes the place of any noun in a sentence. And we have said that a noun clause can function as the subject of a sentence, can function as the direct object of a sentence, can function as an indirect object of a sentence, can function as the object of a preposition, and can also function as a subject complement. So thank you very much for this class. Have a wonderful day to yourself.